What is up, guys? Delboy here. I just wanted to make a quick video about Joseph Parker. Obviously, he fought Razvan Cojanu yesterday for the WBO heavyweight title. He was making his first defence. He was scheduled to face Hughie Fury, but obviously Hughie Fury pulled out, and he was replaced at short notice by Razvan Cojanu. And Joseph Parker won the fight by unanimous decision. First of all, man, let's just talk briefly about the fight. I'm not going to go too much over it because ultimately a lot of channels have covered it already, and I'm a bit late on it. But it wasn't a great performance. I've been watching Joseph Parker since Franz both away. I think he was like 6-0 at the time, 5-0 or something like that. I've been watching him since then, and I have to say, I think this was the flattest I've seen Joseph Parker, and I think it was his worst performance that I've seen from Joseph Parker. He didn't look like he had the enthusiasm or the energy, or he didn't look dynamic. He wasn't changing things up. He looked really one-dimensional in there, and he looked a bit sluggish as well. Didn't look quite as quick as he usually does. And to be quite honest, it was a below-par performance. And you can't excuse it really, because ultimately he's a champion now. He's at that level. And I know this, as I mentioned earlier, I do know the circumstances, but you have to ask yourself a question. If that was, let's say, Cojanu had to fight Wilder or Joshua on the same sort of notice, I don't think Cojanu would have made it out of the first 3 or 4 rounds, to be quite honest. So it is fair to criticise Joseph Parker, but at the same time, some people are making out like it's the end of the world. As I say, I always say this on this channel, boxing fans are very reactionary. If a guy looks bad, or he takes a loss, then he's done. That's it, he's done. And I think some people just need to just simmer down, take a step back, and just think about what they're saying. Joseph Parker is 25 years old. He's 26 next January. So he's still a pup. He's still young. He's younger than Joshua. He's younger than Wilder. He's younger than... If you look at the top 10 in the heavyweight division according to BoxRec, let's have a look at it now. He is the youngest guy there. Joshua's the second youngest at 27. So, yeah, I'm not making excuses for Parker, but he is the youngest guy in the top 10. And he's got a lot of time to improve. That's all I'm saying. People, I very much doubt Parker's reached his ceiling at 25. I very much doubt that. I think Parker's still got improvements to make. I can think of multiple improvements he can make. Like, for example, he needs to be more consistent with that jab, because when he uses it, it's a decent punch. He needs to work that body more. He needs to put his shots together more. He needs to be more wary of that right hand coming back. You know, there's certain things that Parker needs to improve on. I think Parker could use some. He could feint a bit more when he throws his shots, instead of just always setting up with a jab. Maybe throw some feints. Be a bit more dynamic. Be a bit more explosive. You know. Look at someone like Tyson Fury, how he sort of feints and bobs and weaves and moves all over the shop. Don't do it all the time, but instead of being so one-dimensional, kind of change your angles a bit. Change your styles of attack. You know, look at David Haye. Tried to be, you know, not like David Haye back in his day. He was like kind of an ambush fighter. And maybe Parker can mix a little bit of that into his game, because all I see, you don't really see Parker feint that much to set up his attacks. It's always off the jab. And even, as I said earlier, the jab is not always consistent. So I think a lot of Parker's problems is he needs to be more consistent with his all-round game. He needs to be concentrating more. I think he does switch off in certain parts of fights. But that can be corrected, you know. I think also before the Razvan Cojanu fight, obviously we know what happened. He was supposed to fight Hughie Fury, but Hughie Fury pulled out of injury. And I saw a video by Boxing Gossip. He said he was talking about the weigh-in, and Parker was heavier than he usually is. He didn't look quite as ripped. And it showed in the ring. He didn't look quite as quick. He looked sluggish. So maybe that's another thing. Maybe motivation was a factor as well. But regardless of that, regardless of him being inexperienced, and unmotivated and possibly a little bit out of shape, you should really still be getting that guy out of there. And I do know he was a sparring partner, but still, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, Klitschko was Joshua was Klitschko's sparring partner. You know, it is what it is. That's not really an excuse not to get him out of there. So ultimately, it was a poor performance from Joseph Parker, but don't write the guy off yet. There's talent there. There's things to work with. He's only 25 years old. A lot of fans are so reactionary, and sometimes you have to remind yourself, because a lot of times I fall into that trap where you see a fight and you think, you know what, that guy can't make it at the highest level. But he's 25 years old. But let's talk about Joseph Parker. How does he go? Where does he go from here? And before I go on to that, I know when I make a Joseph Parker video, the New Zealand fans come out in force. So shout out to you guys. I always appreciate your guys' inputs when I talk about Joseph Parker, because ultimately you guys know most about Joseph Parker. What do you guys make of his trainer Kevin Barry? Do you think he's taken Joseph Parker to a stage now where he can't take him any further, and maybe Parker needs another set of eyes in the corner, or another new trainer to sort of get him to that next level? Does Parker need a new trainer to find that next gear? That's something to consider. I think Kevin Barry is obviously a good trainer. He's got Joseph Parker this far, so he's obviously not a bad trainer at all. But in the last few fights, so like the Takam fight, the Andy Ruiz fight, they were tough fights, but I've not seen the improvements after those fights. Do you know what I mean? And Parker picked up the experience in those fights, but he didn't it doesn't look like he's learnt from them at all. So maybe he needs a new trainer. Maybe he needs a new set of eyes in the corner. I don't know. But yeah, what do you guys think of that one? Do you think he needs a new trainer? That's a question for the New Zealand guys. And where does Joseph Parker go now? Listen, Joseph Parker's in an awkward spot, because ultimately he's a world champion, so he can't really take development fights anymore. That's one thing I've always winds me up when world champions take development fights. Like if you recall, Canelo Alvarez a few years back, when he beat Matthew Hatton, he was fighting a lot of over-the-hill fighters to develop his game when he had a world title, and I never think that's good. I can't really tolerate that. So Parker, he can't really do that. He needs to fight good competition, but it's about matching him right and getting in those fights that he can improve and learn off. They're talking about him leaving New Zealand and fighting either in the US or the UK, which is a good look. If I was Team Parker, do you know what? I would go the Dillian Whyte Marius Wack winner. I think that's the best option. I feel that Dillian Whyte will come out on top there. I think he'll have a little too much for Marius Wack. Just be a bit too active. I think he'll outwork Marius Wack. But I think Dillian Whyte versus Joseph Parker is a good fight. Dillian Whyte is not a great technical boxer, but he's got long arms. He's got decent stamina these days, and he's got a good chin. He's going to keep throwing, and he'll have a tear up, but he can sort of keep it long, and he works the body well. But he's quite gangly. He's not very coordinated, and you have to say you'd imagine Joseph Parker's a better boxer out of the two. So I think the Dillian Whyte route in the UK is a good way to go, because ultimately gets him out of that bubble in New Zealand. Dillian Whyte's got an awkward style where Joseph Parker can probably learn from fighting him. He's got long arms, so the jab of Parker's going to have to be used, and used consistently. Dillian Whyte's going to take him rounds. He's going to give him a hard fight. I think that's a good fight for Joseph Parker at this stage. I do like Dillian Whyte, as you guys know, but I would make Joseph Parker a favourite over Dillian Whyte. Despite seeing Parker's last fight, I still think Parker's a better fighter than Dillian Whyte. Do you guys think Dillian Whyte could beat Carlos Takam or Andy Ruiz? I'm not so sure. I think the Ruiz fight is 50-50, but I wouldn't back Dillian Whyte to beat Carlos Takam. So I think that's a great fight for Joseph Parker. Dillian Whyte, I think it's a really good fight. They're talking about Tony Bellew fight again. It's a good money fight. It gets his profile big, and it gets Parker used to the big fight experience in like a foreign country. But does he really learn anything of beating Tony Bellew, a cruiserweight? I'm not so sure. Maybe I'm sort of underestimating Tony Bellew again, but it's a good money fight for Joseph Parker, but not sure what he really learns from it. And yeah, I would go the Dillian Whyte route, providing he beats Mariusz Wach. But what do you guys think of Joseph Parker's performance against Razvan Cojanu, and where does he go next? And what do you guys think of Kevin Barry? Tell me what you guys think. Peace.